Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Exro Technologies, Inc. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Sue Ozdemir, Chief Executive Officer, and Daryl Bishop, Chief Investment Officer of Exro Technologies, Inc., which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol EXROF and on the TSX under the symbol EXRO. Welcome, Sue and Daryl.
Thank you. Thank you for having us both. We appreciate it. With that, we're going to say thank you very much to anybody that's joining us or to anybody that's watching this presentation. We greatly appreciate you joining, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So Exro is a power electronics company. We have created, designed, and developed power controls that allow an electric vehicle or an energy storage unit or electric motor battery to perform better. When you think about electrification and where we are in the world today, some of the biggest problems that we see spanning the world and that we hear about in media and other places and experience ourselves are around vehicle cost, the performance, meaning being able to tackle real world, climb hills and not drain your battery, or drive across the country and utilize your battery better. That's called system efficiency. The charging infrastructure and thinking about how we charge and making sure that it's not a one-stop solution for everything and everybody as we look across the different ways to charge a vehicle. And then, of course, increasing the demand and the utilization of rare earth metals and making sure that we're thinking about that supply chain that is ahead of us in the years to come, and that we don't have dependency on countries that aren't able to supply to us in years to come. And so all of our technology at Exro has been developed with the concept that we are reshaping the way that the world consumes energy. We're challenging the status quo and looking at new ways to consume energy through the control of an electric motor or battery. All of our patents are granted patents. They are done on the motor control and on our battery control. We have several third-party validations, several independent validations, and several product awards that have been won over the last 36 months. So before I dig into exactly what our tech does, I'm going to just take one step back and kind of put everybody on the same platform to think about what is an electric vehicle and how does an electric vehicle work. So when you think about electrification, of course, we all know that that means some type of propulsion type that isn't just combustion fuel. And so that can come in many forms. It can be a hybrid with a fuel cell. It can be a battery electric only. As long as it is some form of electric, this is how it would work. So you're going to have a tank, which is your battery. Your battery is what is the fuel of that vehicle. Even if there's a hydrogen fuel tank, it's working together with a battery in most cases. That is connected to an electric motor, which is your work. It's turning your wheels. But between the battery and the electric motor is actually what's called an inverter. The inverter takes the messaging from the overall software, the vehicle control unit, and it tells that motor how to perform. So when you put your foot on the gas of a vehicle, it's actually sending a software algorithm that tells that controller or inverter how to behave. Very technically, it's inverting the voltage from the battery to perform the voltage of the motor. But it's doing so much more than that. It's all the safety of the vehicle. It is essentially the brain of the vehicle. With Exro's motor control, we call it a coil driver, as it controls the coils of an electric motor. It replaces the current platform of control in an electric vehicle, called a three-phase inverter, with our next generation platform called a coil driver. Our coil driver allows you to achieve greater performance in a cost-effective package that essentially electronically gears. So traditionally, how we're doing it today, the current market, is we can solve that problem of e-mobility. And by that, I mean, you want to drive down a highway, you want to do it at full speed, and you want a full power. So power and speed at the same time. We do that by putting in oversized motors or putting in multiple motors. Even some of the top brand names today have one motor in the back and one motor in the front. We can put in larger batteries. We can put in larger gearboxes. The Porsche Taycan, for example, uses a gearbox in the front and a gearbox in the back. All of these are basically heavily mechanically dependent, cost prohibitive solutions. With our Exro coil driver, we take those physics of electric motors and we put them into the electronics. And what we do is we reduce the dependency of those mechanical components and we drive that performance through the electronics. And so there's a lot more flexibility and scalability as you grow the product. Our technology is proven to be able to scale from everything from a motorcycle to an 18-wheeler. We have core technology that's represented in different products and different drives, from a motorcycle through a commercial truck. But really what we're really proving is that when you do it at a technology level and when you do it at an electronics level, you can keep your model CapEx light and you can scale into a wide variety of applications globally. A lot of our first work has been done in the commercial trucking industry. We did that for a few reasons. Number one, there's a great pull from government regulations that are setting standards as early as just a few years away, where trucks have to be some type of electric propulsion. But also in that industry, it's not really a consumer choice. So the barriers are a little bit different as we see trucks converting all the time as they need to be converted in the next 10 years, and a truck life is generally about 10 years. So we started with that kind of class 4 through 8. So think about it like anything from a Ford F-150 as a class 3 to up to a class 7, which is like a garbage truck. So what you're looking at the screen right now is an example for it's the more red you see, it means that the more efficient that is. And by that, I mean the farther you're going to go on a battery. The best example I could give is imagine riding a bicycle up a hill, just a regular bicycle, not an electric bicycle. Your legs will get tired, even if you're the fittest person in the world, because you're exerting more work as you climb that hill. An electric vehicle works exactly the same way. If it climbs a hill, it's going to degrade the battery slightly because it's working harder and trying to maintain that performance. What this is showing you is that in those areas of hard work, our drive allows you to drain less battery in the real world. Hills, valleys, rough terrain like snow and sleet, ungraveled roads. And so overall, that system, that vehicle, is going to be more efficient, which ultimately results in going farther on a single charge. So now you can imagine a garbage truck that can pick up an extra route, a passenger vehicle that can go to an extra couple of miles or many miles to get somewhere. Or if we look at the cost side, a vehicle that can now drive down the cost because it can use a smaller battery to still go that 400 miles. So there's an optimization of power or an optimization of cost. When you look at that and you scale it from the commercial trucking and you take it into a passenger vehicle, it works the same way. Except in passenger vehicle, we have very large volumes. So that's where really we start looking at, can we reduce those magnets? Can we make a better impact on the world in the future by not having so much dependency on rare earth metals? So what you see on the screen now is a study that we did in collaboration with a third party called AVL Engineering. They're one of the top labs for automotive globally. And they utilized our drive in a leading electric vehicle passenger vehicle. We recently received these results where you're able to see that not only can we reduce the rare earth metal usage by almost 20%, 19%, but you can have two scenarios. You can reduce that cost. So now you can take down that cost of the vehicle by 10, 15% just by using a smaller motor. So again, to make sure everybody's kind of following along, what happens is you use a smaller motor, but you get the exact same performance that the vehicle has today. Or we can look at it and say it's a garbage truck that needs more performance. And in order to do that, it's going to need to utilize a bigger battery, which would increase the cost. In that case, they could use the same size, not reduce the motor, but get that extra performance. And those are two key pieces of our technology, and it's done with the same exact unit. There's no change in our unit. It's how the rest of the system is optimized, how that OEM designs the motor or designs their battery or designs their gearboxes. And so we applied that into the real world and we thought about what does that mean if it puts on a commercial truck, So we used Volvo as our example, and you can see there that you get about a $10,000 plus savings off of the truck itself. That means that for a commercial truck, now what will happen is on that cost of the truck, they're going to save about 10%. And that's pretty big when you start thinking about one of the main barriers is getting to parity, getting that better total cost of ownership. So our motor control directly impacts the total cost of ownership for fleets globally. When we thought about how to commercialize this, so I'll take another little step back and kind of say, when I joined the company, I've grown up on the electric motor side of the business. So for over 30 years, I've been selling electric motors in a family business. And then with GE, I spent over 9 years at GE, worked my way up as a sales manager up to the CEO of the business unit. And then Exro recruited me in September of 2019. And so very early 2020, we brought the company back down to IP, and we really thought about how do we bring electronic gearing to the world? How do we make sure that an industry that is very hard to enter with automotive, that we're thinking not just about our short term, but where we're going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. And so we went about it in waves. And our first wave was really about proving the scalability and the flexibility. And so we worked with multiple nimble, smaller customers, low volume, that helped us to really learn the pain points of the industry. The pain points of a commercial truck is drastically different than a motorcycle, is drastically different than a passenger vehicle. Again, it's all the same drive for us, but that software side really kicks in, and you have to be able to know how your software works with each of these applications. And then we started working with more emerging growth companies that were also changing the world as far as bringing in electric vehicles. And we worked with partners like Vicinity, which is a municipal bus company, C Electric, which has partnerships with Mack Truck and Hino, and does a UPS style F59 truck, which is a mid-duty truck, and really started to learn how do we get our product in there, really make a difference from a cost and performance. These are both integrated units we launched in October, and our C truck we just launched this month. And we continue to now work with trucking partners globally to really grow that sector with a standardized product that can be scaled and amplified to any electric vehicle. We are completely agnostic to propulsion type, meaning hybrid or battery electric or fuel cell. They all use an inverter. We are completely agnostic to motor type. Of course, different motors produce different results. So different motors are going to get better range, better system efficiency. But our examples that we went over earlier with AVL and on the test bed, our AVL example actually uses one of the best electric motors in the market today. So all of our data is against the best technology that's in the market today, not the worst technology. And then we started working with larger partners that take a little bit longer. They can take years to get through a development. But when you get through that, you're talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of units. And so now we're partnered not only globally with partners like Giafoni, which is partnered with a large beverage truck manufacturer, motor partners like Wolong, where they have ZF as a JV, and they work with partners like Mercedes. But we have partners under NDA, which we've been working with for several years. Our first axle program, which is where you put everything on the axle itself, just like in your combustion engine that turns it, is for an axle for a commercial truck. It's Linamar, who's one of the top tier ones in the world. They've been working with us for over 2.5 years. And in May of this year, we moved into a definitive contract with them, meaning that we passed all of our performance targets and validated what we've been saying as far as performance and cost in one package. Then we also signed up with 2 new NDAs in 2023, which was on our low voltage side. Our smaller side is an off-highway program with a customer that does over $12 billion a year. We've just finished an audit with them here in November, and we're continuing forward with the program. And then we have our second program, which is a large tier 1 motor supplier. That means that they sell the motor into a system like a Volvo truck or another major truck brand. And then they utilize third-party drive. So they buy that drive from somebody else in the market today. And they're testing our drive right now. It's on our test beds. We're feeling great about the results, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to take them out of NDA, hopefully before the end of the year. And then what happens is from there, you go through a durability and marketing program, and you're in production with them shortly after that. And then we have our first passenger vehicle, large global automotive OEM, which we signed up with earlier this year. That's a really important part of the future build, and it really shows that scalability. It's taken us years to get to that point. And getting into an automotive partner doesn't mean that you just have technology. It means that you can get audited, that you have quality standards and certifications and regulations. You have a supply chain that can get through that production. And we checked all those boxes, and we've been doing all that work through 2023. So we're really excited about that innovation project as well. And then as we look to that kind of past 24 will be all about execution, really building up. We launched our production in September, really building up our order book and our revenue. But as we get into 25, 26, 27, we're really starting to think about licensing arrangements and auxiliary revenue through different patents that we filed over the last several years. And so this right now is an example of some of the different projects that we're working on that I've just talked through in the waves. The little red truck that you can see on the screen is our first project for commercial trucking that was done out of Europe. On that one, the technology was a little bit more outdated, and they hadn't really updated a lot of the components. So we were able to achieve a 15% upgrade in range, which has been fantastic for us. The one in the middle is our municipal bus, which really opens up the sector. That's a long time to do durability for municipal bus. So we knew we wanted to start that project early on. We've been working with Vicinity for well over 2 years now. That was launched in October, and will be at one of the airports here in the US this year. And so it's been a great project for us. And then our C Electric, as we said, they're partnered with Mac and Hino and UPS and a few other major Fortune 500s. And we're up and integrating and looking forward to the project. And then an e-beam axle is, again, this one's for commercial trucking. We have a definitive agreement with Linamar. We're listed as their innovation for drives in their investor decks on their website. They've been a great partner to us, a super, they're traditional automotive OEM, but also have a huge vision and appetite for electrification. And so, partnered with Exro very early on, worked with us to really understand, and we co-developed an axle program. And we're out building our demo right now with them, and we'll be out marketing with them at the start of the year. And we're on track to start a program with them by the end of next year. As we thought about what happens when you get a bunch of electric vehicles on the road, where's the next problem that we're going to see in the world? We didn't want to be solving one problem with a new platform of motor control and be creating a different problem. And so as we think to electric vehicles, one of the things that we're kind of still sweeping under the rug as a society is what's going to happen to all of the batteries that come out on the road. And we see solutions all over with batteries starting to be used in second life application. For Exro, that means that we've created a next generation battery control system that really allows you to have a better state of health and state of control of the battery, because we control to the cell level. We're realizing this technology through an energy storage unit. We've recently announced our first pilot unit, which will be in Canada at the Red Deer University, and we're super excited to be partnered with them and to see that installed in the first quarter. And this product will go to full commercialization in 2024. And again, all of our patents are filed, granted patents on both our motor and our battery control. We have multiple patents pending that have been filed as offshoots of those over the last 6 months that help with harmonics and the ecosystem of battery and motor control together. And then as we grew up as an emerging growth company, and as we took our tech to market, we realized that it was going to be difficult to really get an industry that hasn't had change for such a long time to work with us. So we produced a low volume manufacturing facility, which essentially builds the boards of our drives. That's where really the core, the heart of our patent sits, and where it's really important longer term that you have quality and safety in those boards. And so the smallest little drop of adhesive could cause a problem with an automotive board. And in North America in particular, there's not a lot of really good automotive board builders. And so we erected our own SMT line, which you see there. There's a lot of novel things to our manufacturing. It is a target net zero building, but also it allows us to realize our path to profitability in the coming years as we able to control that main component. We did launch our production in September of this year. And then beside myself and Daryl, who are here with you today, our Chief Financial Officer is John Meekison, who has over 20 years in the capital markets and small cap. And the brain behind our coil driver is Eric Hutstead, our CTO, who has spent over 20 years developing and designing inverters for the automotive market. And then as we break into our production, Simon Strawbridge is our Chief Operations Officer, and that's really important because a lot of startups where you struggle is as you take that tech into production. But we've been thinking about design for manufacturing, and our production and our engineering teams have been working together since day one. So our launch has been pretty smooth for us. We kept it really, really small so that we could have a successful year and not drain too much of our capital, kind of learning and running our first runs. And then on our board, just on timing, so we leave some time, I can see some questions coming up on our screen. Our chair is Rod Copes, who comes to us for 20 years in the automotive industry. He started with Harley Davidson, was the COO of Rivian, and upon his retirement from Rivian, we asked him to join Exro, and he moved up to our chair in the summer of this year.
Maybe a little on the capital structure. We can already see some questions rolling in on this front. So in total, we have about 167 million shares outstanding from a basic perspective, fully diluted. You can see the number here, 194. We started from a capital perspective. We started Q4 with about $20 million Canadian in cash. Our burn is anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million a month. So as we look into 2024 and financing the company, we're relatively unencumbered on the balance sheet right now. So our market cap is around 240 million Canadian, so call it 175-ish US. The only encumbrance or debt that we have on the balance sheet is a $15 million Canadian convertible debenture. So we're relatively looking to, we're looking to leverage our cap stack a lot more and be efficient with that, given we started production at the end of Q3. So we're in discussions with a number of parties on working capital lines and revolvers and things of that nature to continue to extend our cash runway and for shareholders. We also are NASDAQ ready. You'll see that in one of the bullets here. We've had our letter of acceptance from NASDAQ for a while. It's a question that keeps coming up from shareholders on when are you going to go NASDAQ? And our commitment to shareholders is that we will absolutely do a U.S. listing, most likely in 2024. For anyone that's follows any small cap stocks on NASDAQ, you'll know it has not been a friendly place in 2023. We wanted to get to start of production, show a revenue path to profitability. Also, we added a number of new directors to the board on the previous slide there that were all NASDAQ experienced. And those are really steps to us being prepared and ready for that US listing. So stay tuned, it's coming.
So as you think about Exro and why would we be a good investment, we'll just kind of highlight back everything that we do here at Exro. All of our tech and our next generation control is done in-house by our own engineering team. We're backed by granted patents. We're scalable. We're proven in the market now, and we're really at our next inflection point for being able to get out there and change the way we consume energy. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and open up and let Daryl read some of the questions, and I'll go ahead and answer, or you can answer as we go through.
Yeah, sounds good. I have to scroll up. So one question came in: is your coil driver a replacement or an additive solution? Do current EV companies need to forego their own inverter technology to embrace yours?
Right. So we are a replacement, not an additive. So they'd be removing on the commercial trucking side. We still call the competition direct because there's no control that electronically gears in the market today outside of Exro. And again, we're backed by our patents. So you'd replace that existing control. On the commercial trucking side, Dana TM4 and Danfoss UQM are the market leaders right now that we're replacing 90% of the time. On the passenger vehicle side, to get to the second part of the question, they would design us in, and depending on how they do it, they'd use our facility to do first runs, your durability testing, but then as you get into your larger volume, you'd be licensing the technology into an automotive partner, similar to the program that we have in place today that we're looking at with successful gates. That's how you do it. So replacing the existing product, not increasing weight, not increasing to a different component. It's not a difficult design in, and then licensing with the higher volume partners. And by higher volume, I mean, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands at minimum.
Mm-hmm. Had a question here maybe I can answer this. On the financing front, are you considering taking on a tier 1 customer as a strategic investor in Exro? I would say absolutely. So when we look at financing the company and you look at the partnerships that we have, many of those are under NDA, of course. But these are discussions that we do have with these counterparties. Can't bank on it. You never really cash that check until the ink is very dry. But is this an option in the future for Exro? I would say absolutely.
I think we have time for another one or two.
Yes. So can you speak to the competitive space for your coil driver, strength of your IP, and EV manufacturers have their own priority inverter technology?
Right. So from the competitive landscape, again, on the commercial trucking side, the main competition in the market is Dana TM4 is by far the market leader, followed by Danfoss UQM. There's a few others under that, but those are the top two. Again, the performance data that you've seen is in comparison to that. So we do have performance that exceeds by over 30% everything that's in the market today. And we are the only inverter that electronically gears. Our patents are fully granted and they are done globally. They've been in place since before I joined the company, and we've already successfully defended our motor patent already one time. And then on the passenger vehicle side, from a licensing perspective, all the inverter companies, all the automotive companies don't build their own inverter. There's one or two of the newer, like Lucid, that's building in-house right now. But in that case, they could still keep their existing inverter design, and they could license in our tech to now be able to electronically gear through their design. So that would definitely be part of where we see our future build.
Maybe time for one final question here. Are your products effectively technologically mature, or are there further improvements to be made?
Yeah, I would absolutely call our product technologically mature right now, especially as we come into the end of 2023. And that's because we've spent a lot of time kind of working through those hills and valleys. It hasn't been an easy journey for us by any means over the last several years, as we fought things like harmonics, which is noise levels when you switch, heat, which is big, just like your cell phone. When you're trying to work with electronics, that heat buildup is something that you really have to manage. That the supply chain itself and being able to work with chip manufacturers in particular, we've been using silicon carbide since we first developed our high voltage drive 2.5 years ago, before it was popular to use silicon carbide. So all of those things are in place right now. And so, our CTO refers to us as Technology Readiness 8. What we're doing right now is working through series production, meaning large volume production with our contract manufacturers, and making sure that all of those kinks of manufacturing are worked out. Being able to produce 100 units, 1,000 units, even up to 10,000 units, we're ready, our ISO's in place. So I definitely think from a technology perspective, we're completely ready, and we have lots of great things in our R&D that we're currently talking to customers about that are the next generation of our tech.
Excellent. I know we're coming up on time here. There's a few other questions that we'll probably respond to separately. But thank you all very much for your time and your interest in Exro, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, and please check us out, EXROF on the OTC market. Thank you.